My brother Daniel? Golden child, star athlete, honor student, mom's favorite smile, dad's pride. Me? I was the quiet one, the backup plan, the afterthought. And no matter what I did, how well I did in school, how polite I was, how many awards I won, it never mattered. Not compared to Daniel. When I was 14 and won a regional debate championship, my parents forgot to show up. You know why? Because Daniel had a soccer game. A regular, nothing special game. And when I got home with a medal in my hand, my mom said, "That's nice, honey. Daniel scored twice." I got used to it, swallowed it, learned how to fade out in family photos, how to smile when I wasn't invited to things. How to listen to Daniel's accomplishments echoed through every dinner table story. But nothing prepared me for the wedding. It started with a text, not a call, not a dinner conversation. A text from Daniel. "Getting married in June. Hope you can come." That was it. No, "You're going to be my best man." No, "Let's grab lunch and talk about it." Just an impersonal, one-size-fits-all announcement. I found out my own brother was getting married the same way I find out about Amazon deliveries. Casually, like a notification. So I waited. Maybe mom would call. Maybe dad would check in. Maybe I'd at least be included in something. Nothing. Weeks went by. My parents talked about flower arrangements, venues, honeymoon plans, all with that same glazed joy they reserve for Daniel. Not once did anyone ask me to help, to give a toast, to even show up early. Then, one night at dinner, a rare family gathering I happened to be invited to, my mum looked right past me and said, "Daniel's so lucky. His real family will all be there for him." Real family. I didn't say a word. I nodded, sipped my water, bit my tongue until it bled. The final straw came 2 weeks before the wedding. I got a group message. A big chain with family members, cousins, a few family friends. Everyone was sharing flight details, hotel bookings, outfit photos. And then I saw it. A seating chart. There it was. A fancy digital map of the reception. Tables labeled with names. There was a table labeled distant relatives plus work friends. My name was there. No family table, no seat near my parents. Not even near Daniel. That was it. I didn't RSVP. I didn't send a message. I didn't buy a gift. I just stayed home. The day of the wedding, I turned off my phone, ordered takeout, watched a movie I'd seen 100 times. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just existed, alone. The fallout was nuclear. When I turned my phone back on 2 days later, I had 32 missed calls. Mom, how could you humiliate us? Dad, Daniel's heartbroken. Daniel, you're dead to me. Even extended family chimed in. You embarrassed your parents. This was the biggest day of your brother's life. Not one message asked why I didn't come. Not one person considered how I'd been treated. But here's the kicker. A week later, I got a message from Daniel's new wife. It was short, quiet, almost hidden beneath the noise. If it helps, I would have skipped it too. After I saw that message from Daniel's new wife, I thought about it for a long time. It was strange, comforting in a way, but also hollow. She was a stranger to me, and yet she understood something that my own family didn't. I spent the next few days in complete silence, barely responding to texts, letting calls go to voicemail. I knew the storm was coming, but I didn't care. The damage had already been done. My phone lit up again, another message, this time from my mom. I need to talk to you. Your father is upset. Daniel is devastated. I stared at the screen. I wanted to text back, to tell her that maybe I was the one who was devastated. Maybe I was tired of always being second place. But instead, I just typed, I'm not interested in talking right now. Then my mom called. I answered it, more out of obligation than anything else. Why, sweetie? She asked, her voice trembling. Why didn't you come? This was the one day that mattered to Daniel. I don't understand. Because I've spent my entire life feeling like the spare tire, I said, the words spilling out. Before I could stop them. Like I don't matter. Like it doesn't matter if I show up, or if I'm included, or if I'm even acknowledged. Daniel's always been the one, the perfect son, the perfect child. And I've had enough. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. You know that's not true, she finally said. You're both important to us. No, I'm not, I shot back, surprising even myself. Not in the way he is. I've always been the one who has to keep my head down and wait for scraps, and I've had enough of it. There was a sigh on the other end of the line. I think you're making this more complicated than it needs to be, she said. Just come to the next family gathering. We'll fix this. We'll fix this? I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Mom, I'm tired of being fixed. I'm tired of being the one who's always expected to forgive and forget, while Daniel gets everything handed to him. Her voice went quiet. I didn't know you felt this way. Because you never asked, I said, my anger rising. You never listened. You just assumed I was fine. You assumed I could just keep going along with whatever you wanted, but I'm done. She hung up after that. No apologies. No acknowledgement of how I felt. Just silence. But things didn't end there. The fallout continued. Just in different ways. A week after the wedding, Daniel texted me. I don't know why you didn't come. I'm hurt. But I guess I'll always be the one who's perfect, huh? That one stung. I couldn't respond right away. I sat with it, processing the words. It wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about everything. All the years of quietly putting up with the favoritism, the silent judgments, and the constant comparisons. Finally, I texted him back. It's not about you being perfect, Daniel. It's about me never being good enough. That was it. That was all I said. I didn't expect an immediate apology from Daniel. I didn't think he had it in him. But what I didn't expect was the cascade of guilt trips that followed. Mom started texting me, pushing me to make up with him. You're both adults. This shouldn't be an issue. Dad said, you should be there for Daniel. This isn't the time for drama. They didn't get it. They never got it. They didn't understand why I was so angry, why I couldn't just pretend to be happy for them and move on. They didn't get how much it hurt to be the one who's always on the outside. The worst part of all this, I realized something about myself, something I hadn't admitted to myself until I was in the middle of this mess. I had been waiting my whole life for someone to choose me over Daniel, to value me, to tell me that I was just as important. But in the end, I realized I didn't need anyone to choose me. I needed to choose myself. My mom called again, this time softer. Sweetie, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much you were hurting. I took a deep breath and said, I know you didn't, but it's too late for apologies. But then, something unexpected happened. Daniel's wife, the one who'd sent me that message a week earlier, reached out again. This time, she was more direct. I don't know what you think of me, but I don't want to be part of this mess. Daniel has a tendency to ignore people's feelings. I saw that with you, and now I see it with me. But you deserve better than this. I didn't know what to say to that. She was right. She didn't have to get involved, but she did. And in a way, her acknowledgement of the truth was more healing than anything I'd gotten from my own family. The truth was, I was angry, but I was also tired. Tired of fighting for attention that I was never going to get. Tired of pretending that things were okay when they were far from it. So I decided to walk away. Not from my family, but from the need to be accepted by them. To fight for a place at the table that I wasn't going to get. I didn't go to any more family events. I didn't answer any more calls. I didn't need to be part of their world. And you know what? For the first time in my life, it felt good. The first few weeks after I made the decision to distance myself from my family were surprisingly peaceful. It was the first time in my life I wasn't constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the next favor, the next expectation, the next call for my help would come. I got to live my life without the pressure, without the weight of trying to fit into a mold that wasn't mine. I didn't have to pretend to care about family events I never truly wanted to attend. I didn't have to fake smiles at holidays when it was clear I wasn't wanted. But despite that peace, I still felt empty. I'd been so used to being alone in the middle of a crowded room that I didn't know how to be truly alone. To stand on my own without the noise of expectations constantly surrounding me. I'd spent so long craving my parents' approval, craving my brother's acknowledgement, that I wasn't sure how to fill the silence, and the silence felt suffocating. Daniel didn't speak to me for a while. I didn't expect him to. He was still angry, still hurt. But as time passed, I began to wonder if I was right in cutting them all off. Maybe it wasn't just about me needing validation. Maybe they needed to understand what it felt like to be invisible, to be ignored. But then the calls started coming in again. This time, they weren't from my parents. It was from my aunt, the one who had always sided with my parents, the one who'd always seen me as the troublemaker when I stood up for myself. I hadn't heard from her in years, but now she was calling, and I was curious why. When I answered the phone, she immediately launched into her usual judgmental tone. No, your mom's been crying herself to sleep every night since the wedding, she said, as if it was my fault. She says she doesn't know what went wrong, and you've ruined everything. I stayed silent. My heart didn't race. I didn't feel the sting of guilt like I used to. Well, I don't think it's too late to make things right. My aunt continued. You need to apologize to your brother, to your mother. It's not too late to fix things. And that's when I realized something I hadn't fully acknowledged before. They weren't mad at me because of the wedding. They were mad at me because I had changed the rules. I had stopped playing their game, and they didn't know how to handle it. I didn't respond to my aunt's request. I didn't apologize, and I didn't give in to their guilt trip. I had my life back, my peace back. I didn't need their approval anymore. But then, just when I thought I was going to be left alone, the unexpected happened. Daniel reached out. For the first time in weeks, I saw his name on my phone. And this time, it wasn't a text. It was a call. I took a deep breath before I answered, bracing myself for whatever was coming. Hey, he said, his voice sounding different, softer. I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I wanted to apologize. I didn't know what I was doing to you. I was stunned. The words felt strange coming from him, as if they didn't quite belong to the brother I knew. But they were there, clear and honest. I don't want you to feel like you don't matter, he continued. I was so caught up in my own life, my own happiness, that I didn't stop to think how all of this has affected you. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to scream at him for all the years of hurt, but I also recognized the sincerity in his voice. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he added, I want to fix things, if you'll let me. I thought about it long and hard. Did I want to go back to that world? The one where I was constantly chasing my parents' approval, never quite feeling good enough? The one where Daniel always had the spotlight? No. I didn't. But this wasn't about going back to that. It was about moving forward, about starting fresh, even if that meant starting without them. I took a deep breath and said, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that, but I appreciate you reaching out. The weeks that followed were strange. My parents stopped calling as much, and Daniel kept his distance, but not in a cold, angry way. He respected my space, and I respected his. There was no grand reconciliation, no dramatic family reunion. We didn't sit down and air all our grievances. Instead, we moved forward in our own ways. Slowly, cautiously. Maybe someday we would. Find a way to reconnect, but it wouldn't be under the same rules. It wouldn't be under the same expectations. And that was okay, because for the first time in my life, I was finally choosing myself. Months went by, and I found myself settling into a new rhythm. My life, once tangled in the expectations and disappointments of my family, was now clear. I was no longer defined by their approval, no longer carrying the weight of their judgments. For the first time, I felt light. But there was still a lingering ache, something that I couldn't shake, no matter how many times I told myself that I was better off without their drama. I told myself that walking away was the right decision, that I had to prioritize my own happiness. And yet, deep down, I still yearned for something. Maybe not their acceptance, but a peace between us, a way to coexist without all the resentment. It was complicated, but nothing about my relationship with them had ever been simple. The phone rang one afternoon, and I knew it was from home. It wasn't from my parents. It wasn't even from Daniel. It was from my aunt again. I hesitated before answering. "Hello? I think it's time for you to come back home," she said, not even bothering with pleasantries. "Enough time has passed, and your mother wants to see you." I stayed silent for a moment. Was this it? Was this their version of an olive branch? "I'm not sure if that's a good idea," I said, my voice guarded. "I'm in a better place now. I'm happy. I don't need to go back to that." "You can't just pretend nothing happened," my aunt insisted. "You need to face your family. Your mother is heartbroken, and Daniel is trying to move on." That last part stuck with me. Daniel was trying to move on. He had apologized, yes, but now it seemed like it was my turn to make the first move, to step back into the fold and act like everything was fine. But that wasn't the reality. I wasn't fine, and neither were they. I wasn't sure I could walk back into that house, into that world where I was expected to smile and forget the years of neglect. "I don't know," I said softly. "I need more time." Weeks passed, and the calls kept coming, but this time I started to soften. The anger I'd felt at my family was fading. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I was starting to understand the complex web of relationships that had shaped all of us. I could hear it in Daniel's voice the next time he called. A mixture of guilt and regret. "Are you still mad at me?" he asked, his voice low. "I can't stand the idea of losing my sister over something so stupid." I sighed, feeling the weight of the years we'd spent apart. The things we never said. The things we never had the chance to fix. "I'm not mad, Daniel," I said, my voice quieter now. "I'm just tired. Tired of feeling like I'm not enough." He was silent for a moment, then replied, "You are enough. You've always been enough. I've been a selfish jerk. I'm sorry." It wasn't much. It wasn't a grand apology. And it wasn't an offer of reconciliation that came, with no strings attached. But it was something. And sometimes, that's all you need. A small, honest moment to rebuild. One evening, a few months later, I found myself driving back to the house where I'd grown up. It wasn't to attend a see-he-hated family event, and it wasn't to make things right in some dramatic way. I was just going back to see my parents, to see if they were willing to sit down and talk, without all the noise and guilt and history hanging over us. I walked up to the door, and as I knocked, I had no idea what to expect. The door opened, and there they were, my parents, older, but still the same. Still the people who had shaped so much of who I was, for better or worse. "I'm here," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "We need to talk." They looked at me, almost in disbelief, as if they'd expected me to stay away forever. But then, without a word, my mom stepped forward and hugged me. No words, just the embrace I had been waiting for, even though I hadn't realized it until that moment. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know we didn't do right by you. We didn't see you, not the way you needed us to. I'm sorry for everything. Dad stood behind her, nodding. "We were wrong. We always took Daniel's side, and we should have seen what we were doing to you. You were never second place. You were always enough." It wasn't a perfect apology. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. And sometimes, that's all we get. the chance to start again. As we sat down together and began talking, it felt like I was finally able to breathe. The years of resentment, of feeling invisible, were beginning to fade. Slowly, but I wasn't going to forget everything, not yet. I couldn't, but I was willing to try at my own pace. Daniel came over that afternoon too. It was awkward at first, but the tension was easier to bear than it had been before. We didn't talk about the wedding. We didn't talk about all the things that had gone wrong. Instead, we talked about the future, about moving forward and learning from the past. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like a family again. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive my parents or my brother. But what I do know is this: I can move forward now, without the weight of their expectations holding me down. I've learned that I don't need to be anyone's second choice. And more importantly, I don't need to be a part of their drama to be whole. And that's enough for me.